Heart at the Hazbin Hotel, Chapter 28. Heart isn't feeling safe right now. Things probably aren't going to be looking up like she would like them to be. So, let's get this started. Chapter 28. Overlords Awaken. Heart's point of view. It's been about a week since I told my friends about my engagement. They were all trying to give me suggestions now and with the wedding. If I had a theme, if I knew what flowers I wanted, what kind of cake flavor. I just laughed at them and said I wasn't really thinking about that stuff yet. I feel that they were blowing it out of proportion now. I understood that they were only trying to help me, though. I appreciated it, but I wanted to have at least a month before I started to do any planning. I finally asked Charlie as well to be another bridesmaid, which she happily accepted. I was so glad to have her now as part of my wedding. Charlie was probably my first friend I ever made. She was just so kind and sweet. It made me glad I knew her. If it wasn't for her and her hotel, I would have never met Alistair. My wedding should be fun with her around. I just stuck with having 3 in my wedding party. I felt it would be nice to have a small one. Alistair actually asked Husk to be his best man, and was surprised when he said yes. Husk was Alistair's best friend, even though he didn't really act like it. I'm sure Husk cared for Alistair, though, and was happy with him. Then he asked Russ as well, which was another surprise to me. Alistair didn't know Russ too much, but I'm sure he liked him enough to ask him to be a groomsman. After all that stuff when he left, I'm sure Alistair appreciated him taking care of me when he was gone, becoming my friend. Alistair still had to think of one more person, but he had time, so he wasn't worried about it. Alistair always joked, saying he was going to take me into town and sign the papers. I couldn't do anything but laugh at him. I know he was joking to me. Alistair was just old school. Get it over with so I could be his all the way around. I would truly belong to him. That didn't sound bad to me, though. Besides bite marks and sucker bites to show I was his, I would have a ring as well. That would seal the deal. I also noticed that Alistair has been on edge since last week when we went out, and I don't know why. He was way overprotective lately. He seemed more twitchy than normal, and I also heard his radio stations more than I ever have. He was always on alert. He almost didn't want to leave me alone in the house. When he did leave, it wasn't for very long. He was always by my side. I didn't mind it, but I was worried about him stressing himself out over whatever it was he was concerned about. I woke up this morning in Alistair's arms, and he had my back close to his chest as my wings were folded against me. His head rested on top of mine behind my horns. He was basically spooning me. Although he has been keeping me in his arms like the last few mornings, I didn't mind, because it was the safest place for me to be, and my favorite. I know he was doing it just for his own comfort as well. I felt the light rise and fall of his chest from him sleeping. I felt his breath on the back of my ears slightly. I let out a small sigh in content at this. I took my hands and started to rub his arms that were against me. Just feeling his skin under my fingers felt so nice. I watched as his fingers twitched a moment. I chuckled from that. I felt him move, and he tightened his hold on me more. He must have been waking up. I was soon correct as I felt kisses being placed on my ear. I let out a chuckle at the feeling. "You awake now, Al?" I whispered over my shoulder. He didn't say anything as he unwrapped one of his arms and glided his claws down the side of my leg. I felt goosebumps start to form from his touch. "I'm awake, yes," he finally answered. "I don't, however, want to get up." "I don't want to either. I'm quite happy where I am," I told him and snuggled into him more. Alistair chuckled. He shifted taking his other arm out from under me, and rolled to my back as he hovered over me now. He leaned down and kissed my lips gently. I wrapped my arms around his neck and kissed him back. He pulled away, but I kept my arms wrapped around him, my hands going through his hair. I don't want to go out today. I want to stay with you, Alistair whispered as he looked down at me. Then stay, I told him, pulling him back down to another kiss. He pulled away after. I have to, but I'm worried since I'll be away longer than usual today. Don't worry about me, Al, I told him as I put a hand to his cheek. I don't want you to get stressed because of it. I'm afraid you're running yourself down over it. I would never. Don't you worry about me. Alistair took my hand from his cheek and kissed the top of it. I can worry about you. Powerful or not, I'll still worry about you, I told him sternly. Alistair chuckled and just kept his smile. I just want to look out for you. I still smiled at him. I know. I'm glad you do, especially since I'm just a small, weak demon. I put my ears back slightly. Alistair took the hand he was holding and brought it to his chest. You are not weak, my love. You have your own strength. You don't need power to be mighty. Says you, I whispered. I saw him give me a sheepish smile. You have some kind of power over me, though. Alistair leaned in and kissed me deeply. I gave a small chuckle against his lips and kissed him back. I guess that was true. I did seem to change this icy-hearted demon into something different. He was warmer and more open, at least to me anyway. I loved him so much, and nothing would change that. I heard a static growl in his throat. Mind if I have a piece of you before I leave? He asked in a whisper, and he kissed my cheek. Don't take a piece. Take all of me, I answered with a breath. I saw Alistair smirk before he went to my neck and started to attack me with bites and kisses. I laid in bed on my stomach as I had the covers pulled up to my waist. After Alistair was done with me, he went to go clean up before heading out. He told me to just rest as he pulled up the blankets to cover me. Then he joked and said he would be back to have more of me later. I just laughed at his statement. I loved him so much. He placed a kiss on my head before leaving the house. I had fallen asleep not long after he did. I was slowly waking up. I thought I heard footsteps in the room. Alistair couldn't be back yet. Could he? I then heard a whisper, but it was more than one. I was almost freaking out, but I kept my eyes shut. I wanted to make sure they didn't know I was awake. If they planned to do anything to me, I take it upon myself to defend myself. I heard them whisper a few minutes as they walked around the room. I could tell someone was by the bed. Let's get it and get it over with, the one said. We don't know when the radio demon will be back. Make it fast, I heard the second say. Boss wants us to not come back empty-handed. They're going to do something to me. I wouldn't stand for that. I felt that if I had to defend myself, then I had to do it with more strength. I wouldn't go without a fight. I snapped open my eyes, jumped up out of bed, transforming into my wolf demon form as I did. My engagement ring fell off my hand in my transformation, but I noticed it landed on the bed. I got a look at the demons beside my bed. There were only two, but they were both humanoid-looking demons with cat ears and horns coming from their foreheads. I flapped my wings to keep myself aloft as I looked at them. They had a state of shock on their faces. I'm sure they were surprised with me waking up. What are you doing here? Leave at once, I demanded. They both got rid of their shocked faces and then smirked at me. I'm afraid we can't do that, miss, the one with gray ears said. We have a job to do, the other one with orange ears added. I said leave. I yowled and bared my teeth. Not without you. the orange one said. I saw them reach at their sides and pull out rope. They threw a lasso at me. I dodged the ropes and dived down to the gray-eared one. My teeth out, I aimed for his neck. I managed to knock him down, but I couldn't get to his neck as he put his arm up, and I bit into that instead. Blood came out, but I didn't let that stop me. The demon grunted in pain and tried to push me off. I then felt a pain in my side. I howled. I jumped off the demon and landed back on the bed. I looked to see a knife in my side. The demon stabbed me. I looked at him and growled. I jumped at him, but he jumped out of the way. I stumbled into the bedside table. The lamp toppled and fell, as well as a picture sitting there that fell too. I chased the cat demon with a bark. "Brother, don't just stand there, help!" the gray one yelled. I jumped onto his back and knocked him down, but we tumbled around on the ground a moment. I just pushed and got pinned up against the wall. The orange demon finally came to the other's aid. I then felt weight on my back as I got pushed into the ground. I wasn't expecting it. I tried to bite at him, but I couldn't reach. I then felt pain in my back as a knife got put into it, and then aggressively ripped out. I howled again in pain. "Knock her out! Knock her out!" the gray one screamed. I found my strength and pushed up and bucked the one demon off my back and bit the arm of the one holding my side. When they let me go, I ran away from them. I ran to the other side of the room. I was out of breath. My wound on my side and back still hurt. I stood on shaky paws. The two cats stood up. "How much fight you got left in you, girl?" the orange one laughed. "You don't look so good," the gray one grinned. They were right. I don't know how much fight I had left. I had to keep them at bay long enough. I had to keep fighting till Alistair got back. Unless I just ran out. I'd bump into him eventually, wouldn't I? I saw the door was still open slightly, just enough for me to get out. I bolted and headed for the door. The two cat demons jumped at the same time I did, but I managed to get out of the door before they got to me. I heard the door slam from them hitting into it. I then heard the door swing open as they ran out into the hallway. I jumped over the railing of the stairs, but as I was in the air, I felt a rope go around my one wing. I couldn't stay aloft and fell to the floor in the living room, smashing the coffee table in the process. I was in pain now. I felt my left paw was injured. I don't know if it was broken or not. I then felt weight on my back and then a stabbing in my neck. "I got her!" It was the orange demon. He got up off of me. I felt dizzy, woozy. I tried to stand, but I fell back down. They both laughed. "Not getting away from us that easy, pretty dog," I heard the gray one say. I lifted my head, and I felt my eyes getting heavy as I looked up at the demons. What did they do to me? The gray one walked up to me and kicked me in the face, and I fell to my side. "We have you now! See if your little radio friend can save you now." He then kicked me in my injured side. I couldn't move, couldn't think. What was the stuff they injected into me? It must have been something to make me sleep, because I was really feeling weak. They had gotten me. They had won. I felt myself transform out of my wolf demon form, and I laid there naked. That was embarrassing for me now. I never really wanted to show my body to another. Whatever was planned for me, I did not know. All I could hope for was Alistair would save me now. The two demons laughed again. I felt my world slowly go to black as my body went limp. Third person point of view. Alistair was walking home from his plans he had today. He tried to get them done as fast as possible so that he can get back home. He didn't want to leave Heart alone for long. He usually had shadows watch over her, but she told him not to have them watch over her today because she was worried about his well-being and didn't want him stressing. He granted her wishes by doing so. He didn't realize that doing that was a bad idea. Alistair walked down the dirt road back to the house. He then had an uneasy feeling hit him. He froze a moment from it. He tried to push it aside and continued down the road. He soon got to the front of the house. The uneasy feeling was really hitting him now. It almost felt like a weight on his shoulders. When he went to the front door, his heart almost sank a moment. It was open. It was only ajar, but it was open nonetheless. He didn't think as he quickly walked inside and was surprised at what he saw. The living room was a mess, the coffee table broken. He could smell Hart, but also smelled her blood as well. He walked over to the coffee table and examined the spot. He saw bloodstains and black fur. There was also an unfamiliar smell in the air, mixed in with everything else. But he didn't know what it was. His heart quickened. Where was his love? What happened here? For again in his life, he was worried about Hart, and fear was starting to come upon him, just like it did that night of the extermination. Hart! Alistair called out just in case. Maybe she was hiding from whatever it was attacking her. Hoping she was still in the house somewhere, he left the spot in the living room and ran up the steps and into the bedroom. When he saw the sight of it, his heart dropped. The bedroom was even more of a mess. Blood stained the walls and the floor. The bedside table all knocked over, and the sheets of the bed were everywhere. Alistair knew that blood was Hart's. Her scent was embedded into his memory, so he knew. The feeling he had outside now just pushed him down. He felt his stomach almost drop at the sight of whatever happened. Hart had to be safe. She had to be. Hart! Alistair called out again. She couldn't be gone. Could she? Who would have done this? Why her? The only time he didn't have shadows to protect her, because he was actually granting her request. And this happened. He just wanted to show her that he would listen to her, to push his worries aside. He knew that since last week something wasn't right. No matter how hard he tried to keep a lookout for something dangerous, it still snuck by him. How? There had to be some bigger picture here. He went to the bed and looked at the state of it. Black fur and blood covered it. Then he saw it there, in the middle of the bed. He reached out and grabbed it. He held it in his hands a moment. Hart's engagement ring. She told him that she'd never take it off. Something happened to her. Why, though? And who? Who the fuck would do this? Alistair had no idea. He knew he had enemies. Too many. The question would have to be who. More importantly, how would they have found out about her? They never really made it public that they were together, nor engaged. Only close friends knew. Unless someone saw them when they were out in public, it was the only thing he could really think of. Just when they were starting to pick their lives back up after Alistair returned, to finally live their lives how they wanted, then this happens. No such thing as a happy day in hell, nor a happy ending. Alistair didn't even realize it, but he was crying. He clenched his fists around the ring. Art, he choked out through his tears. He fell to his knees and put his arms on the bed. His other hand gripped the sheets. Why? Why her? Was all he said aloud. As he kneeled there and cried, he realized that he had never experienced this before. True sadness and despair. He knew what loneliness felt like. But this was another form of it he never felt before. He almost felt lost. Whoever did this to them would pay with their lives. His sadness soon melted away and was replaced by anger. He felt it boil through him. It powered him. Someone deliberately wanted to hurt him by taking the one thing he cared most about. To take the person he finally felt love for. It was personal. He stood up, his tears still falling down his face. The void around him shifted as his radio static filled the air. His voodoo symbols floated around him. His antlers grew bigger from his head. His eyes glowed, so bright from the anger that was going through him. He looked at the ring in his hand again. "I'll find you, my wolf. I promise." Alistair put the ring in his pocket. "I need to find out who did this, but I will need help first," he said in a deep, radio-static voice. Alistair then ran out of the house. He needed help from the demons he considered friends. He needed Charlie's help. Lucifer would never help him. He hated him. He would probably laugh in his face. Charlie was Hart's friend too. He needed her to help him. Plus, the help of her other friends. He needed to find Hart. He just didn't know where to start. Alistair tried to list off the people that could do this. He didn't want to go around destroying the city. The person who kidnapped Hart probably wanted him to do that. He had to control himself, though. Hart would hate it if he went around slaughtering everyone just to find her. He'd probably never forgive him. He wanted to, so bad. His old self would have. But he had to know better. Think with a straight head. He tried to locate her, using his shadows to go out and look. Something was blocking her from him. It had to take a lot of power to do that. Block him out from her. His shadows would stay out looking for her no matter what. I'm sure they were feeling the same way he was. Worried. Scared. Something he never really felt before. Hart was in trouble, and he seemed powerless to help her right now. Alistair soon arrived at the hotel and burst in through the doors. He was almost out of breath from everything going on. He made everyone in the lobby jump in surprise. Then some screamed in fear from him since he had a strong aura around him. Some of the guests ran away and back up to their rooms. His anger still was going through him, distorting the world around his form. Charlie was in the lobby when Alistair barged into the hotel. He scared her from his rage. She needed to calm him down. She saw tears were still falling down his face. Charlie had never seen the dear demon cry before. Something had upset him. Very upset. Angel Dust and Husk were surprised by the burst in of the radio demon and hid behind the bar, but peeked out to see what was going on. Angel was almost shaking from seeing Alistair's form. The main thing he wondered was, where was Hart if Alistair was here? Vaggie stood behind Charlie from the sudden burst in from the demon. She grabbed onto Charlie's shirt and just looked at Alistair with slanted eyes, wondering why he was here and in such a state. Charlie started to walk forward, but Vaggie stopped her a moment. Charlie looked back at the girl to let her go. Vaggie didn't trust it, but did as she said. Charlie slowly walked over to him. "Al, calm down," she said calmly to him. "I can see you're upset. Tell me what's wrong. Why are you here?" Alistair looked down at Charlie and he started to calm himself. He saw the fear in her eyes as she looked at him. If he wanted her to help him, he had to calm down. He tried to hold back his radio static and made his symbols disappear. He looked down at Charlie and tried to stay calm. "My princess, this is important. I have no one else to turn to." Charlie walked up closer to Alistair. His eyes were still aglow and his antlers were still large above his head. He was asking her for help. This surprised her. "I'm here for you, Alistair." Alistair felt his tears fall down his face still, but he had no control over them. He reached into his pocket and pulled out Hart's engagement ring. He held it out to Charlie. The demon princess took it from his hands. Charlie was shocked to see it was Hart's ring that he had just given her. "Alistair, this is Hart's ring. What's going on?" Charlie asked with worry. Alistair took a pause. He felt his sadness taking back over himself. He never felt this before. It confused him. He didn't know how to act. He fell to his knees in front of Charlie as his tears fell. "Hart's gone. Someone has taken her," Alistair cried softly to Charlie, looking her in the eyes. Charlie kneeled in front of him and put a hand on his shoulder. "Where is she, Al?" she asked him. The deer demon shook his head. "I don't know. I can't find her. Something is blocking me from her." He cast his head down to the floor. "I'm lost." Charlie looked at him with sad eyes. She had never seen him this upset before. He was taking this very hard. She also knew that he has probably never felt this way before, so he was probably wondering what was going on with himself as well. Someone strong had to have the ability to block out Alistair's powers. The question had to be, who? "Al, come on. Get up. Let's go to the couch, okay? We can talk," Charlie suggested. All Alistair did was nod. He stood up and walked with Charlie over to the couch, and they sat down. Maggie had also walked over and sat next to Charlie. Husk and Angel got out from behind the bar and went over to the couch as well. They all felt bad for Alistair. Someone had kidnapped the love of his life, and he couldn't find her. He felt powerless, useless. How can he ever live up to protecting her now? He broke that promise to her. As Alistair sat on the couch, he had his elbows resting on his legs and his face in his hands. His tears fell, but he couldn't find a way to stop them. All his shadows were coming back to him empty-handed, and with no sign of her at all. This made things worse, if even his shadows couldn't find her. "Al, tell us what happened. Think you can do that?" Charlie asked him. Alistair lifted his head and looked at the fireplace. "I can try." "Try. That's all we ask," Charlie told him, looking at him softly. Alistair took a breath and went to tell them about what he came home to. Hart's point of view. I felt the world come back. My head was just killing me. I was slowly waking up from what was going on. I tried to remember what happened. I remember the two cat demons. Then they were trying to kidnap me. They had succeeded. I heard nothing at first. I tried to blink my eyes open from my sleep, but when I did, I was surrounded by darkness. My eyes quickly adjusted, and I noticed I was in some kind of bedroom. It definitely wasn't my own. Where the hell was I? I tried to move, but then I realized I was all chained up. I was standing and was up against a pole. Whoever had me now still didn't want to take the time to dress me. I was still naked. I was so uncomfortable now. I didn't like being naked in front of strangers. I had a hard enough time being comfortable around Alistair. Now I was forced. I then heard voices from somewhere. I saw a light protrude from a doorway not far away. My ears flicked at the sounds. I was trying to catch what was being said. "My boys came back successful. Now I get to see this prize of Alistair's in person," I heard one male say. "I'm interested to see as well. This is definitely going to be fun to torture him with," I heard a second male say. I heard the door unlock, and the light from the hallway spilled into the room. It was right in my face, so I squeezed my eyes shut and looked away from the change in light. I couldn't even get a look at the men in the doorway. I heard the light of the room being turned on, but I kept my eyes shut. "Looks like someone's finally awake," I heard the first male say. I heard footsteps going across the floor. They were getting closer to me. I felt a hand take my chin roughly to make me look up. "Open your eyes," the voice demanded. I did as told. If I was to survive this, I had to be cooperative. I opened my eyes, and when I did, I was greeted to a very tall demon with muted blue skin. He had red eyes that were covered by pink and gold heart glasses. I saw he was wearing a top hat and saw 2 antennas sticking out of them, one having more fuzz. He had a fur-lined coat with more of the fuzz on his collar, having hearts implanted in them, and plain white fluff cuffs. I knew this demon. I've seen him before. Valentino. I saw him give me a wide, pink, toothy grin. "What a beautiful specimen Alistair has. No wonder he never told anybody he was with someone." "I could care less, Val. I'm just more concerned about getting back at the scumbag," I heard the male behind Valentino say. Valentino let go of my chin and turned to face the demon behind him. He had a giant flat-screen TV for a head. A black top hat sat on top. His eyes were red with light blue pupils, but his left eye had black stripes and a jagged pupil. He was wearing a striped tuxedo with a black and red striped shirt. He had a red bow tie and a whitish blue undershirt. Vox. From what I remember Alistair telling me, he was one of his enemies he hated the most. "Vox, are you sure you don't want to partake in this part?" Valentino asked the teeny demon. "No, I'm going to be more focused on recording it and getting under that radio demon's skin." Vox then laughed. "What do you want with me?" I finally found my voice to ask. "Ah, it speaks after all." Valentino turned back to me. "If you must know, little dog, we plan to get back at that boyfriend of yours. He's had his time with us. Now it's time we return the favor." The blue demon laughed. "Alistair will find me in no time. Then he'll kick the shit out of you," I said cocky. They both then laughed at me. "We thought ahead of you, stupid bitch," Fox said. "The stuff our boys injected you with not only knocked you out, but blocked out his powers, too. He has no idea where you are." He laughed. I felt my ears go back against my head. Oh no. Who knows how long I've been here then if Alistair couldn't find me. "We have our plans for you, little dog. You're going to be part of our little experiment," Valentino told me. Vox laughed. "In the meantime, we're going to take care of you while I broadcast the whole thing. It will make its way to Alistair eventually." I saw an evil smile come to his face. My heart was racing so much. I felt my blood pulsing in my ears. I was at their mercy. I was tied up and nowhere to go. I was in their clawed hands. I didn't know what they would even do to me. "Let's get our scientist friend up here to start. I think it's time we see if this will finally work," Valentino said. "I'm already here, Val," a voice said. I then turned to the doorway and looked around them as best I could and saw a red-furred wolf demon wearing a lab coat. He had a clipboard in hand. "Doctor, good to see you here. We were going to have you inject her with that serum you've been working on for me," Valentino said with a grin. The wolf demon pulled out a syringe from his pocket. I have it right here, and ready for you, sir. I hope that you've been doing better since the last time we tried to use it, Valentina said with a small growl. I won't know if this serum works. If not, I'll have to tweak it again. He glanced at his clipboard. I'm about 95% sure it'll work, though. Once I see how it reacts, then I might be able to fix it to be a better percentage, the wolf demon scientist said. I was feeling scared. What were they going to do to me? What in the world was in that syringe? I tried to struggle out of the chains that bound me, but it was no use. Vox turned to me. No point struggling, you little bitch. You can't get out. You're ours now. Valentino reached and grabbed my chin again. I'll make you be a good girl and obey. I would never obey you. You can't make me do anything, I growled. Let's take a bet, shall we? Valentino chuckled. Valentino opened his hand in front of me, and I saw pink smoke release from his hand. It went around me a moment. I didn't want to breathe it in. I don't know what it was. I was still scared. Why me? You can't hold your breath forever, Vox laughed. He went up to me and then punched me in the stomach. I opened my mouth and breathed in. The pink smoke entered my lungs. The scientist grabbed the TV demon's hand. Be careful, he yelled at him. If you hurt her there, I don't know how well the serum will work. Vox huffed and pulled his arm out from the demon's grasp. I felt my body start to tingle. What was happening? I felt control of my mind slipping. It was like I was being trapped while my body was doing its own thing. Then I realized Valentino wanted to control me, put me in a trance, almost like hypnotizing me. I tried to fight it off, but I didn't know how long it would last. You can't fight an overlord's power. You're just a weak, damned soul. When I have full control over you, you'll do as I say, Valentino said evilly, and then started to laugh. He was right. Soon I stopped struggling. I was still here, but not fully. He had his trance over me now, but it felt like I was having an out-of-body experience. My body stood where it was, but all I could do was just stand off to the side and watch. Good girl. Valentino patted my head and then turned to the scientist. Inject her with it. Once it's done, we can start the real fun. As you wish, the scientist said and walked towards me. I wanted to move, but I couldn't because my body wouldn't listen. I just stayed still. The doctor took my arm and then took the syringe and started to inject the purple serum into me. I had no idea what it even was or what Valentino's evil plan was with this. All I knew is that it wasn't good. The two overlords just laughed. Vox, why don't you go get ready? Meanwhile, I'll get her ready in here, Valentino growled seductively. Let's see how Alistair likes this for his entertainment. Vox laughed as he walked out of the room. I usually don't partake in my own business, but for this, to get back at that radio asshole, I'll gladly do so. Valentino turned to the scientist. Do you want to stay? The wolf demon shook his head. No, I'm going to be off. I'll check on you after you're done. Valentino nodded, and the doctor walked out. The blue demon turned to me. I wanted to just punch him so bad, but my body still would not move. He went around me and undid the chains. They fell to the floor. I wanted to run, but again, my body did not listen. Valentino stood in front of me and just looked at me up and down. I was still naked after all. The demon smirked. Hopefully this serum works this time. You'll be the perfect one to experiment with this. He laughed again. When I'm done with you, Alistair won't look at you the same again. End of chapter 28. Oh shit, what do these two have planned up their sleeves? Let's find out in the next chapter. See you around, guys. Until the next time.